I don't have much time to explain, so I'll try to give as much detail as I can. I live in a small neighborhood located on the outskirts of Arizona, and I barely interact with others. Some people see me as being antisocial, and have tried to get me out and experience more of what life has to offer. It was all annoying and very stressful at times. But after a while, I guess you can say I opened up. I began to communicate more with others, and eventually found myself being invited out to parties and other local events. Fast forward a few months. It is now December, and the holiday is now upon us. And this year, I felt like doing something different. Instead of sitting at home and treating these upcoming days like any other, I decided to invite some people over to spend time with for the holiday. Though it was out of my comfort zone, I felt good about my decision. Only problem was, I didn't know much about my neighbors. Sure, I talked and went out with them time to time, but I don't remember any of them talking about their personal life. So, when I called up some friends from the neighborhood, they all had something to do with their families or already had other plans scheduled. This sort of bumped me out, but I didn't let it affect me too much. Later that day, it was about 5:30 p.m. and the sun was just setting. I was sitting on my couch, watching the fire as I sipped my freshly brewed tea. As I sat there, loneliness crept on me, so I decided to play some music on my phone in an attempt to get into the holiday spirit. After a few minutes of tapping my foot and bobbing my head to the songs, the sound of a loud and aggressive knock came from my front door. My body froze. However, it wasn't from fear. We didn't get any suspicious happenings around here, so this hardly gave me a scare. I turned down the music and approached the door. "Who is it?" I questioned as I grabbed the handle. There was no response, and I know I should have just asked again or just simply not opened the door. But unfortunately, I wasn't thinking, and opened it anyways. Standing in front of the doorway was an awfully tall man. He had to be about 6'2" at least. I myself am 5'10", so maybe it was just my height. His hair was a mess, and his clothing seemed worn down. Hello? Can I help you with something?" The man didn't respond. He just stood there, swaying slightly back and forth. I swear it felt like I was standing in the doorway for hours. He took one last sway forward before stopping in a weird, awkwardly way. The way he stopped was quite unnatural and a little impressive, so to say. To give you an example, think of the dance move Michael Jackson does when he stands on his toes. The only difference is that he was still flat on his feet, his legs stretched out, and his face just inches away from mine. I pulled my head back and put a hand on his shoulder. "Hey, listen, if you don't need anything, then I advise you to move on." I gave him a slight push on his shoulder, and while doing this, the man's head quickly twitched towards my hand. He then leaned back into a normal, upright stance. Again, complete silence. After a few seconds, maybe 10 or so, the man pulled back his hair, revealing his eyes, giving me a clear view of his entire face. The man was well shaved and had a huge grin. His eyes were wide, and he slowly opened his mouth as if he was going to speak. I burst out in a stern voice. I think it's time for you to get off my...
Oh, my apologies. I was just strolling around the neighborhood and realized you were the only one home. What's wrong? No family to go to?
I squinted at the man before responding. No, just me. Though, if that's all you have to ask, then I suggest you be on your way. The man looked above my head into my house, surveying the inside before turning to look down the street.
Oh, I see. You see that house down there, right behind the other two? That's where I stay. I hardly take walks like this, for the others never seem willing to speak to me. Except, well, you of course.
At this point, I didn't know what to say. All I really could do was stand there in confusion.
Oh, how rude of me. I guess I haven't properly introduced myself. My name is...
Just get the heck off my property. The man stared. I don't know what set me off so much, but I was fed up and wanted him to leave. Yeah, you heard me. Get the heck out of here. The man's grin disappeared, and instead was replaced by a deep frown, clearly filled with irritation.
Oh, very well then. Suit yourself.
He turned around and walked off down the street, towards the direction of his home. I closed my door and sat back down, overly frustrated to continue listening to music. It was about 2 hours later, and it was now completely dark outside. I must have dozed off, cause I remember quickly opening my eyes and sitting up to see the fire was out, and the house was completely dark. I reached over to turn on the lamp beside my couch, and as soon as the light switched on, it switched right back off. Huh? I tried turning it back on a few times before getting up and trying other switches. None of the lights were turning on, and I assumed the power was out. I put on my shoes and coat and went out the back door to check the fuse box. Normally, in some places, the box will be in the basement, but for mine, it sat right behind my house attached to the wall. I opened the panel and squinted as I flicked multiple switches back and forth. As I was doing this, I felt the feeling of being watched. I stopped what I was doing and turned around to see the man standing a couple yards away. Now, there is a set of woods behind my house, and they aren't that deep, but it takes about 10 minutes to go through. The man stood there right in front of them, with his back facing towards me. After analyzing and making sure it was him and not someone random, I shook my head and turned back to the fuse box. Jeez, what a weirdo. After flicking one of the switches, a giant spark burst out from the fuse box. Oh crap, I muttered, shielding my face from the sparks. I turned around to observe my surroundings, refusing to face the fuse box out of frustration. That's when I locked eyes with him. The man was now facing in my direction, with the same frown as before after I told him to leave. This creeped me out a bit, but I still didn't let it get to me. Still here, huh? No response. Instead, his frown turned into a wide, inhuman ear-to-ear smile, and his eyes widened even more than before. Oh Christ, what the heck are you? The man darted in my direction, his body slightly hunched forward, and his arms spread out as if he was ready to embrace me in a bear hug. His fingers were bent, and I could see a few veins form through the skin of his forehead. The speed he was running at wasn't normal. It wasn't even something you'd see from an Olympic runner. It was more of a superhuman type of speed. After a few seconds, I finally gained the control to move and haul my ass back inside. I slammed the door shut and locked it immediately. Crap. What the heck was that? I stepped away from the door, backing up into my living room. I don't think I took my eyes off the door even for a second.
Hey, come on. Let me in.
The man's voice came from the window by the front door. His voice was deep, raspy, and made my blood curdle. I was afraid to turn around. I imagined seeing his face pressed up against the window, with the same inhuman-like smile and wide eyes. But when I turned, he wasn't there.
I'm still here. Come on, let's play.
Again, I heard his voice. This time, it came from the window by the back door. This continued for about 15 more seconds before I yelled out, "What the heck do you want from me?" I stormed towards the door and swung it open, ready to attack whatever was behind it. Immediately, an aggressive breeze passed by me and into my house. I looked around, and the man was nowhere to be found. I closed the door and stomped over to the back door and opened it with the same force as before. Nothing. After closing the door, I walked back into the living room, grabbed my phone, and did what I should have done at the very beginning. Dialing 911. It took a few rings for them to finally pick up. When they did, I didn't give them any time to speak. "Hello, there's a crazy man outside my house, and I need you guys to send somebody out quick." Silence. For about a second, it felt as if nobody was on the other end. That's when I heard his breathing.
Sorry to disappoint you, my friend. I'm already inside. Let's play a game. What to do? I know. Why don't we play hide and seek? It's decided. I'll give you 10 seconds. I'll come looking for you then. Tick-tock.
The phone fell out of my hand as I felt a strong, sinister presence behind me. I hurried and ran upstairs to my room. I grabbed my laptop that sat on my dresser and slammed the door, jumping into the closet behind a set of clothes. It's been about 45 minutes, and I still hear him, moving around, whispering, calling out to me with laughter. He's getting closer, and it won't be long before he found me. Calling the police didn't work, so I'm hoping this message will. I can hear his footsteps getting louder, heavier, and his voice turning into a more demonic tone. I could smell you there. Where are you? What? Are you scared? You weren't scared when you talked to me like that earlier. What happened? At this point, it sounds like he's crawling on the walls. Or is it the ceiling? He's right outside my door right now, muttering something. From what I hear, it sounds like a chant. Please, if anyone finds this, send help. I don't think I have much time left. God help me.